Today marks a change in the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments are structured, the first four really set our relationship with God. See, every society needs to have a set of rules to guide them, to organize the society. And the Israelites take the Ten Commandments as their organizational rules. God makes a covenant with them, and as part of the covenant, hands them these instructions for how to organize their society. And their society begins by being organized around God. And it's really an amazing time in history. You have these former slaves who are at the bottom of society, who have now become free and are wandering the desert, just as a mob. And they need some kind of organization. I don't care what kind of society you have. You could be alone on a desert island by yourself. And somebody swims up to that desert island, and now there's two of you. And the two of you get along great, but you still need to have some guidelines to how you're going to interact, how you're going to share food, who's going to cook when, who's going to clean when, who's going to dig the latrine. You need to have some guidelines, and these are God handing down these instructions. Now it begins with instructions for how we relate to God, because everything comes from God, and all of our interactions as people begin with how we interact with God and who God is, and the fact that we're created in God's image. So after God gives us the instructions for how we relate to Him, that He is one and only, that we will not try to box Him in by making a statue, make Him smaller than He is. We won't misuse His name because there is power in that name. And we won't abuse the Sabbath, but we will take that time of rest to grow closer to Him and closer to one another. So today, the commandments make a shift. The first four were about our relationship with God. The next become about our relationship with each other. That whole love God, love each other. Now we're into the love each other and how we treat each other. And we begin with this commandment. Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land your Lord God is giving you. The word of God for all. This commandment begins with that most basic of human relationships. A parent to a child, and a child to a parent. But it's a relationship that's fraught with all kinds of difficulties. And so God offers us a commandment and a promise. I mean, generations for eons have complained about other generations. Younger generations show no respect for the institutions of their seniors. Those young whippersnappers are so disrespectful. I was in a church once where there was a literal civil war over the fact that we had a teenager who sat in the back, in the balcony. Nobody could really see him except the choir. But he would frequently wear a baseball cap to church. The disrespect of wearing that baseball cap practically tore that church in half, as they complained about how the younger folks don't respect what we do. The younger folks don't respect our institutions. The younger people in the church complained, the older folks, they don't respect our ideas and our ways of doing things. They just want everything to be the way it was for them. I've heard younger people complain about seniors who have ruined the environment, who use up all the medical money, or who do all kinds of other stuff. I've heard seniors complain about young folks and their music. And actually, it's okay to complain about younger people's music. Now that I'm in my late 40s, I agree with that. So that's okay. We have this argument between generations. And God offers us here a commandment to help solve that problem. To honor your mother Now, it's a commandment that's meant to prevent abuse. Remember, there's no Social Security, there's no Medicare back then, so you get too old to work, you're at real risk to being tossed to the side. And God says no to that. So it's meant to prevent abuse, but yet it's a commandment that's probably one of the greatest sources of abuse. Some things to be reminded of. One, it doesn't say you deserve honor. You don't deserve honor. You are going to be given honor, but you don't necessarily deserve it. So it's not a reason for you to get puffed up and have expectations. And it also doesn't say to enforce honor, but to give honor. It's a commandment to you. You are told to give honor, not to expect honor, not to enforce honor, but to give honor. So it puts an obligation on you, not a privilege. And the obligation reinforces the concept of treating others responsibly. No matter how they might have treated you, no matter the situation, no matter your sentiment, you have an obligation to treat others responsibly, with honor. So it obligates you. There are a couple of key concepts to this whole commandment. Is that, first of all, it says honor, not obey. Boy, do we like to change that commandment to switch it to obey. I mean, Paul says several times, especially in Ephesians and Colossians, to obey your parents. But those need to be treated in context. You're obeying your parents as long as they're revering God and leading you to God. This is just a blanket statement to honor. It doesn't say obey. As I said last week when I graded the quizzes, the most frequently misquoted commandment is this one. We all want to put honor your parents. The second is, and this is really unusual for the time, it says to honor your father and your mother. In patriarchal societies like they had back then, if you look at other legal codes of the time, the Code of Hammurabi in Babylon, you look at some of the Egyptian legal codes that they had, there are incredible guidelines and strictures to honor and protect fathers. Mothers have almost nothing to protect them. But here, God puts mother and father equal, which is unusual. So it's to both mother and father. And the third, and this is the disappointing one, it's for adults. This commandment is written for adults. And you look at the other places where Moses talks about children doing something, and it's very obvious from the context that every time he's talking to adult children. I say it's disappointing because, as a parent, I want my kids to be honoring me. But no, this is speaking to me. This is speaking to us, adults. Now, we honor God. We honor our parents, first and foremost, by honoring God. To honor your parents is to keep a good name. So it doesn't matter how your parents treated you. It doesn't matter if your parents were abusive, if your parents were bad. This is not making up for that. This is acting in such a way that you bring honor and respect upon your family name. You honor your parents in the way you live yourself. And that's step one. We honor our parents by honoring God, by living in a godly manner. So people see us and our actions, and it reflects well upon our parents. And by that way, even if your parents are not great people, by you leading a good life, you honor them. The second thing is the word honor in Hebrew, its closest synonym is the word respect. Respect. To honor is to respect. Look at the story of Noah. After the flood, the ark lands. What's the first thing Noah does? Remember, what's the first thing Noah does after the ark lands? We all know the story of Noah and the ark. The animals going in 2 by 2. We forget the second half of the story. What happens after they land? What's the first thing Noah does? He's just dying to do it when he gets off the boat.
Thanks, God. Thank God.
Thanks, God? Yeah, but there's really one thing he's running to do. He doesn't really stop to thank God much. He does that on the ark before he gets off. He plants a vineyard. First thing he does, he plants a vineyard. Why does he plant a vineyard? What?
He's thirsty.
He wants wine. He wants wine. He plants a vineyard. He doesn't eat the grapes. He makes wine. And what's the first thing he does when he makes the wine? He gets blitzed. And he passes out stone drunk, naked as a jaybird. The first son to walk in and find him is Ham. And what does Ham do? No, he doesn't. He runs out to tell everyone else, hey, guess what Dad did? Is that bringing honor to his father? No. The other two sons come in, and they take a coat, a blanket, and they cover Noah up. And then they leave, and they don't speak about it. That brings honor to his parents. They don't make a big deal about it. They cover him up. They don't try and bring dishonor. Which child does God not bless? Ham. And which ones does he bless? The other two. Showing honor. That doesn't mean we excuse the bad behavior. That doesn't mean we okay the bad behavior. But it means we respect and honor. We live in a good way. To honor is also to listen. It's something we think we don't need to do that much once we move out of the house. Once we move out of the house, we think we know everything. Actually, for some of us, once you get to high school, you think you know everything. Anyone who's had a high school student in their house, sorry. It's true. But listening to your parents, that doesn't mean doing everything they say, but listening to them is part of honoring. And honoring them is not to mock them and talk back. And that includes all the time. Think about going to visit your parents and then getting in the car to drive home. What do you most often do? Frequently, you complain about your parents. Complain about the things they were doing. Complain about the things they said. Make fun of them. Who's sitting in the back seat listening to this?
Your children.
Yeah. Do you really want your children someday with their spouse in the car driving away from your house complaining about you? Think about it. Kids learn what they see. So honoring is to speak well of. Or if you can't speak well of, being quiet. It means forgiving them for what they've done. Not forsaking them when they're old. And spending time with them. There's a story. It's actually, I believe, one of Aesop's fables. About an old man who, as he got older, he could no longer live by himself. And so he moved in with his son and daughter-in-law and their family. And he would sit at the table, and he would shake, and he would splatter his food all over the table as he tried to get it from his plate. And he made such a mess. And the daughter-in-law would get so frustrated with him at the mess. And finally she said, if you can't stop making such a mess, you can't eat at the table. And she put him in the corner. And he would sit in the corner and he would still shake. And as he shook, the food would fall on him. And she said, if you can't use a utensil properly, you can't use them anymore. And so she took away the utensils and made him just eat out of the bowl. And he'd pick up the bowl and he'd try and eat it. As he would eat, he would slop on the floor and he'd slop all over himself. And she just would get angrier and angrier and angrier. And finally she said, if you're going to eat like a pig, like that, you're just going to have to eat like the pigs. And she took away his table and she made him eat on a trough on the floor like the pigs outside. One day, a short time later, her son came in. He had been working out in their shed all day. And he was so excited. And he came in, Mom, Dad, look what I made for you. It's a trough, so that when you guys get old, I can feed you. The mother, very quickly, restored the father-in-law to to a place of honor at the table and stop the treatment. This commandment reminds us that we learn what we're taught. And if you want your children to honor you, you honor your parents. This commandment is not a privilege for parents. It's an obligation for children. And we are all children of someone. Even if our parents are no longer living, we honor them through the way we live. We honor them through the way we speak of them. We honor them with the way we treat them. And when we do that, generations get brought together. And our children and our grandchildren learn to honor us the same way we honor those. God offers us as the first commandment the way to bring society and generations together through the offering of honor, and promises that if we do this, things will go well.